Hello and welcome to Salt Nation TV. In this episode, I'm in the Focus ST170 and I'm going to describe why this car is so good. It's blown my mind. This car as a temporary daily because my Z11 Nissan Cube broke. I don't know how I broke it. I don't know what's wrong with it other than it being a transmission issue, but I needed something that was going to be a daily, but not a mundane daily. I wasn't going to echo my wife and get a Mark II Focus 1.8 diesel Z-Tech, because even though that is a good car, it's not a bad car at all. It's a good bit of kit. You know, it's boring, isn't it? And I can't have a YouTube channel and then have a boring car. That would be weird. That would be really odd. The most boring of cars I had was also the most reliable, which was my Mark VII diesel remapped Golf. Do I regret selling that car? Yes. But that's a different story. I like the look of the Mark I Focus. The ST170 and the RS, obviously, are both stunning looking cars from the front. Not necessarily from the profile, the side profile, because, you know, it is a little bit baby's got back and a little bit high at the back of this car. But the reason it's a bit high, one of the reasons why this car is so good, it's Ford's introduction of its control blade rear suspension setup. Now, the ST170 or SVT, whatever in the States and Canada, came out. These were launched in 2002. My particular ST170 is a January 2004 registered car, and as you can see from the way that I've just pulled along this bit of road, what a car it is. It's a car that puts a smile on my face, and the fact that the handling blew my mind, because it blew all expectations of me in this car out of the water. This control blade suspension setup is insanely good. It's stock. That's the thing. I've got to keep pinching myself and telling myself that this car is essentially stock. This is the stock. You can't afford an RS version, performance version of the Mark I Focus. And out of the box, this car is clearly very, very capable. I didn't know it was going to be this capable until I bought it and then did the research. I don't tell people to do research before. I don't know how to talk. No, I don't normally research a car after I buy it, but I did for once, and you know, maybe that's helped indulge that surprise factor, because everything I read about this car after the fact of buying it has blown me away, because I got in it after I bought gent that had owned it for the previous 14 years. I got in it, gragged it, and went, whoa, this car has got a lot going on. And, you know, the control blade suspension setup is one of the amazing things that this car offers. The other is a Cosworth developed engine. Now, it doesn't say Cosworth on it, but Cosworth did develop it. They did the tune, they did the exhaust manifold, I'm pretty sure they did the inlet manifold, they did some stuff with the cylinders. They included variable valve timing, which for this dual overhead cam engine makes it smooth and particularly potent. I've got one Series BMW behind me, 2013 plate, and as BMW drivers go about their daily business, they were up my arse a minute ago. Now they're not. They're not up my arse because I just put my foot down and go, see ya. The commuting aspect of this car is fulfilled by the fact that if I needed to, I could fit 4 big adults in it with a smaller adult as a 5th member, but generally I drive my daughter in it. My daughter is 3.5, she has a car seat and she sits over there. She is more than happy to be in this car, she likes being in fast cars, and this car is surprisingly fast. The 172.3 or 0.8 brake horsepower this car produces and just under 200 newton meters of torque, you would think on paper that's not particularly fast, especially in today's world of ridiculous cars coming out of the factory with 200 plus 300 plus horsepower that people generally commute in. This car feels way quicker than its suggested capabilities. I don't know if that's because, you know, it has that aluminium head on the engine. I don't know if that's the reason. I'm assuming it probably is. I'm just dropping to 4th there because I've hit that 50 mile an hour average speed camera zone. So let's slow down and at least make the engine sound like it's doing something by putting it into 4th at 50. This car just, it fulfills everything that I would be looking for in a car. It's older. I like older cars. I don't like a lot of the technology. I think having blind spot indicators on your wing mirrors is one of the laziest things you can have in a car, and I absolutely fucking hate it. When I'm overtaking someone, I see this red line light up on their Volvo X60 or XC60. I just think, you hate driving, you hate cars. You really don't, you're not a car fan if that's something that you want to buy into. I might be being controversial about blind spot indicators, but I think it's just that it's an example of technology taking over the experience of driving, and I don't feel that. The most technology driven car I've owned, and I had it for 3 months, was a 2013 Honda CR-V. That car did only last 3 months. I did 6,000 miles in it. I got it remapped within the first week of owning it. It was very fast in a straight line. It handled quite well for a big car, but it was soulless. You've got all of these ridiculous settings on the seat. It's not just a dial that you can wind back and forth. It just pissed me off constantly. I was just in it going, look at this. What is this car about? It's just too bland and too technology focused. It's too lazy driver focused and lazy driver focused. And I like to enjoy driving. I like to actually have to change gear. All right, arguably the Cube, which is a CVT automatic transmission, isn't a manual, but you still have to concentrate on keeping the revs at specific levels to get the best out of that car. So there's still some input needed. This car offers comfort. It's not the most comfortable car ever. These half leather, and they are Recaro seats. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. They're definitely styled by Recaro. And if they're not, I'm going to say they are. So, whatever. They're very supportive without being overly comfortable, but they're not uncomfortable. There's plenty of space, as I mentioned earlier. But it's the other factors about a daily. It's got to be fun. The Cube was fun in a, I'm driving a car that you don't see very many of because it's a JDM imported car, and it's got some character about it. The driving position, how it looks, the way that accelerates from the lights, which is excellent, but then dies off at about 40-50 miles an hour. It's got to be fun. This Focus ST170 is definitely fun. Even just doing 45 miles an hour in an average speed camera 50 zone, which is boring as fuck. Even in this scenario, this car feels fun because I'm hearing a nice exhaust note. The exhaust note is obviously better when you put your foot down, like that. Let's not accelerate too much because average speed. But it's fun. It gives you a little bit of theatre and drama with that exhaust note and with the way that it performs, the way it accelerates, the way it handles. That's always in my criteria for a fun car. But it's that hidden performance, it's that unexpected performance of this car that really does blow my mind and makes me think that the £1,500 I paid for this was a bargain. Yes, at time of filming it's got 143,000 miles on the clock, but that's not a lot for an 18-and-a-half-year-old car. It's less than 10,000 miles a year, which my dad still tells me is the thing that you should always base the use of a car on. If it's under 10,000 miles a year, cool. If it's 10,000 miles a year, average. If it's over 10,000 miles a year, worrying. This is way under that, which is great. It feels tight, it feels sharp. It's a surprise every time I get in it. It's not mundane. It's a 5-door family hatchback, but a performance 5-door family hatchback. And considering this car, the actual ST170 was released in 2002, there are a lot of things about this car that keep it fresh in 2022, 20 years after this design came out. And that's got to be something to be absolutely ecstatic about. My only issue with this car, and it's not so bad when you're doing a motorway or dual carriageway drive, is the driving position. I mentioned in the first Focus video that I don't really like the height of the driver's seat. I don't. It's not a deal breaker for me. I'd like it to be a little bit lower. I'm not a gangster. I don't sit all the way back. I'm not a chavvy 17-year-old boy racer. I'm a 39-year-old man with a pretty high responsibility job, and I'm married and I've got a child. So on the outside I'm sensible. I'm not particularly sensible, especially when I'm driving. I like to drive it like I stole it. However, I don't sit back like I'm falling asleep at the wheel. And even for me, who likes that slightly high back to a chair but low seating position, this is too high. The adjustability of the seat isn't amazingly good. But I know why Ford did it. Ford introduced this driving position when they introduced the Mark I Focus, and it's so your line of sight is at its best level of visibility, and I get that. It does become annoying when you've gone out for a spirited drive on some country roads, because you can't quite get that comfortable whilst slinging it round corners. But the car is constantly comfortable when slinging it around corners, and that makes up for the high driving position. The general controls in here are great and are very intuitive. The steering wheel, albeit mine is worn, I wouldn't say it's badly worn, but it's quite shiny and slippery at the top of the steering wheel, which is where I like to hold the steering wheel. The gear stickers are of a nice height. I have seen weirdly on some Focus forums that the gear stick is way too high, but obviously these people that think this gear stick is too high haven't put in a short shifter, a proper short shifting gear stick, because you want that height, you want your arm, you want it to be perpendicular with your elbow, so when you're changing, bang bang bang. I don't know if that's just me and the Honda guys that enjoy that, but like the hybrid racing short shifter I had in my Accord, that was higher than this one, and that gave me such enjoyment shifting. So it's bang, bang, and it's at the right level. You're not overstretching, you are there. So the gear stick being high in some people's minds isn't an issue to me at all. I think it's perfect height. But you know, you've got very clear dials, very clear gauges. The stereo system is okay. It's very dated. The speakers are very good though, so that's excellent. And I think the aesthetics of the car also don't make it look aged. I think they make the car look younger than its years, because this car, like my car here, this car is 18 and a half years old. I mentioned earlier, it doesn't look 18 and a half years old. Yes, I've managed to bag myself an amazing example for 1,500 quid, but I think, especially from the front, it looks very fresh. I think, essentially, to summarise, because I could go on forever about this car, and I'll bore myself. This car is wicked. It blew my mind. It surprised me in many ways because of how much performance I got for such a little amount of money. I mean, let's just make some space. The exhaust note is great, and I'll talk more about that when I take this for a spirited drive on camera. I tried to before filming this video a couple of days ago, and there was too much traffic on the roads that I like to speed down, and it was, you know, it would have been a shit video because I was driving at a relaxed rate. So I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Yes, it's long and lingering, a bit like my appreciation for this car. If you did, then please subscribe, turn on notifications, and yeah, I've been me, you've been you, and well done for that.